President Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, will be sentenced tomorrow for lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russia. Many legal experts say he was railroaded by then FBI Director James Comey, whose team told Flynn there was no need to bring a lawyer to his interview. Comey testified on Capitol Hill for a second time today. And afterward, he said we should be far more concerned with the president's actions than with his.
So another day of Hillary Clinton's emails and the Steele dossier. This while the President of the United States is lying about the FBI, attacking the FBI, and attacking the rule of law in this country. How does that make any sense at all?
It doesn't make sense because you're employing straw men and fallacies. And of course, just last week, Comey told MSNBC that his hastily arranged interview with Flynn was, quote, something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized administration. Well, it takes a special kind of sanctimonious sleazeball to admit he played dirty pool and then get mad when someone calls shenanigans, but such is the life of everyone's 6'7" emo poet. So what does this all mean for Michael Flynn and the Mueller probe as a whole? Joining me now, criminal defense attorney David Bruno. This is not an either-or, as James Comey is laying out. It's not either you pay attention to what the president is doing or you completely abandon the rule of law in this country. Therefore, whatever was happening at the FBI was completely above board. Both things can be true at the same time.
Yeah, not to mention, he blamed Fox News today in that press conference as well.
He's obsessed.
Unbelievable. And you know what? He may get slammed tomorrow with Judge Sullivan, because prior to tomorrow's sentencing hearing, Judge Sullivan ordered both sides to provide all the 302s and the circumstances surrounding Flynn's interview. And we now know, because of the statement that he gave to MSNBC last week, that he cut corners. He was supposed to go through Don McGahn to get that interview, and he didn't. He sent in Peter Strzok, and we know Peter Strzok with the text messages, and also Andy McCabe. McCabe's the one that convinced Flynn not to have an attorney. These are all familiar names that we've been talking about in the Russian interference investigation.
Well, I think they should all know better. I think Flynn should have known better, and certainly McCabe and Strzok had a professional responsibility to let him know what the stakes of that interview were, and that Flynn might have been the subject or target of an investigation, and this was not merely a couple of fellas sharing intel.
Agreed. Agreed. They should have done those things. They should have went through McGahn. Potentially, they should have given him his Miranda rights. He had the right to remain silent. He was a target of that investigation.
Well,
Flynn didn't challenge any of those things.
And I tend to agree with some of the other legal experts who say that this is not necessarily entrapment. But if what follows from this interview is a series of criminal charges, then certainly it should have been a much more forthright process, if nothing else.
I agree it's not entrapment. It's unprofessional, possibly unethical. But there was a remedy that Flynn had here. He could have filed motions to suppress if he was going to challenge the statement, which he did not. He waived those rights and he pled guilty, and he waived any appeals on those issues.
All right. Now, Alan Dershowitz has said that Michael Flynn did not commit a crime lying in this context. How do you feel about that?
Well, the special counsel just released the 302. I haven't had an opportunity to see it. I will like to see that. But, you know, lying is a tough thing to prove, generally speaking. I mean, here, he had to actually forget about the conversation, forget about the topic of sanctions. It's a tough case to prove generally. And we haven't seen the transcript of that, and we just got the 302, which I haven't seen yet.
All right, so it's interesting because Flynn pled guilty to this stuff. And, you know, that's an admission that he has done something wrong. If he went to his attorney and said, hey, we were just sharing stories, they didn't tell me that this interview was going to lead to charges of any kind, they told me not to have a lawyer, a good lawyer would have said, no, we're going to defend this vigorously, do not plead to anything.
Hey, listen, if that's the only thing they had on Flynn, I agree with you.
Yeah, but obviously... But
also, there was an indictment released today. 2 ex-associates of Flynn in conjunction with the Turkey Project that have been charged with FARA violations and lying as well. So it looks like they had much more against Flynn than just the lying, which would be important for any legal expert to have a conversation with him about whether or not he should plea or not.
All right, much more to come. Thank you so much, David.
You got it. Pleasure.